what you're going to do next. Any ideas? All right. First question. How many people signed up? Signed in? All right. If you have not had the opportunity, please sign in. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you come out here and you call the commander, you come to a CAPS meeting, you gone to your block club meeting, and you told them what the problem was, but you didn't sign up, as one of my best friends says, you're talking loud saying nothing. You got to get involved. You got to do something. And we're going to talk a little bit of some ways people have gotten involved and it's made a difference. Here's one of the most common complaints I hear. And it is on the north side, they got all these extra police officers, they got all these people out there, and they're just taking care of crime. And we need more police officers out here. Anybody ever heard something like that? All right, so let me tell you the truth. So before I was out here, I was on the north side. I was responsible for CAPS all on the north side. From everything from the river north to Evanston, from the lake back over to the river. Let me tell you what I've noticed. This is a true story. And those who have heard it, I ask your patience. For those who not, this is true. So, a couple years back on a Sunday, I get a call from one of the commanders and saying, hey, I've gotten about 15 calls about this park. Somebody has been poisoning dogs out there. Can you start looking into see what we got with these parks? And I was like, all right, no problem. That was Sunday. Monday, by the time we got in, phones were ringing off the hook. I had a number of people asking, not only the commander, but me, asking us what kind of undercover investigation was started. Had we put 24-hour patrol? And by the way, when will the helicopter be there? Okay? They wanted all of this. So, well, we can't do that. We understand that this is a serious issues with your pets. We got it. But what we can do is we'll have a meeting and we'll start working on it. Every day that week. When I say every day that week, every single day that week, somebody was calling on the hour about these dogs. By Friday, they had organized a meeting where they had filled up a gym with over 500 people. Not only had they filled up a gym with over 500 people, they had raised over, I think it was like $20,000 to figure out who was poisoning dogs in the park. Let me say that. In less than a week, because someone had poisoned a dog, they had raised $20,000 and put 500 people in a gym and wanting to know what we're going to do about that. Okay? Let me tell you what resulted in that. Guess how many dog boards there are in this city of Chicago? There's about 5 to 7. I sat on 3 of them for 3 years. Guess how many dogs I own? 0. But you know why I had to go there? Because the community made that a priority. When the community decides to make something a priority, things change. It happens every time. Happy Liquor Store. Anybody know Happy Liquor Store? It's on 79th and Cottage. Woo! 79th and Cottage is a fun place. All right? Happy Liquor Store has been a problem for over 20, 30 years. I can't remember. I have not met a person who has told me that Happy's Liquor was a problem since they were a kid. We had been working on that problem for years. This is another true story. So, finally, Happy Liquors is up for court. I reach out to one of the pastors there who's been complaining about, it's like, Pastor, guess what? I know you've been complaining about this, but let's see if we can make a little bit of a difference here. Why don't you come to court with us? He's like, all right, I'll come to court. I was like, all right, come on to court. So he comes to court, but he doesn't come alone. He brings 2 buses with him of people. So we get down to the Daily Center, and the buses start to unload. The sheriff department's looking at us like we're crazy, asking, what are you doing with these people? I'm like, oh, we're going to court. So we go upstairs, we go to court. Now, the courtroom that this is held in is no bigger than about these 3 seats back here. It's a really small courtroom. There's 200 people trying to pack the courtroom. We've taken over the hall. Sheriff's Department has come upstairs to try to close the floor, trying to figure out why we're doing this. I'm going to tell you a secret what happens in court. Every time we go to Buildings Court and a lawyer is there without a client, the first thing he asks for is a continuance. Every court case I've been to, when he's asked for that continuance, it's always granted, except this time. The judge is trying to figure out why all these people are in this court, and he goes, guess what? You know what? You need to get your client down here now. He's like, excuse me, Your Honor? Yeah, you need to have your client down here by 2 o'clock. He says, Your Honor, he's working, he's doing this. He says, I'm sorry. Let me put it this way. You are now ordered to have him here by 2 o'clock. Cool. That never happens. We're really excited now, all right? So 2 o'clock rolls by, the judge looks at it, and instead of doing what he normally does, which is, guess what? We're going to continue this for the next day, and we'll get to it in 2.5 months. He goes, nope. Today, guess what we're going to do? Today we're going to close you down. He issued an order there. Don't worry. He issued an order right then and there to close them at 5 o'clock. Called the commander that day, said, hey, they got to close at 5. At 5:01, the store was closed. What we couldn't do in 20 years, the community did in one afternoon. Let me say that again. What we couldn't do in 20 years, the community did in one afternoon. That's the purpose of us being here. If we don't set the standards for our community, who will? Anybody?
Nobody else.
We got to do it. So when you come here today, don't just come here for, hey, they want us to have another community meeting, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? I don't want to have another community meeting. For those who've been to a meeting, I'm going to ask you to work. I'm going to ask you to come out here in the morning to do some work, whether it be some canvassing, whether it be go to court, whether it be help us start a block club, whether it be whatever we need to do. That's the thing that we have to do. Don't worry about it. They got it. See, I ain't looking. I trust my partners. They got it. Don't worry about it. They got it. All right? But that's important. I don't have to worry about the crazy stuff. We got partners to deal with that. They're going to be back there dealing with it. But what we got to do is make sure we organize, that we sign up, that we go to our CABS meetings, that we go to court. One of the most important things that we can do is go to court. I'm going to tell you one more story and then we're going to get out of here. Another true story. This was up here in the North District. So, there's these kids over there and they keep smoking pot. They're smoking pot by this lady's house and she's upset about it. She calls the police show up, and guess what they do? They arrest him. He goes to court, and this is one of the things that happen in court all the time. He goes to court. The officers are sitting there, right? And before the officers can get up when the judge calls the case, and the defendant gets there, the state SOLs it. That means stricken with leave. Yeah. They do it all the time. And there's 100,000 legitimate reasons why. However, this time was a little bit different. You know why? Because some court advocates had showed up, including the lady. So, this particular time, the woman shows up, stricken without leave. She goes back and she finds my boss's number. And I don't mean my normal boss, I mean the superintendent's number. If anyone here can tell me how she found that number, please let me know. Because he picked up the phone and called down to my boss who said, hey, why did that happen? And I go, I don't know. I wasn't there. How am I supposed to know? He's like, well, you now got to go find out. So I go over to court and I talk to the city attorneys and they tell me the reason. And I go, okay, this is what we're going to do. We got to reinstate the case. He's like, yeah, but it's not that big deal. I was like, oh, yeah, it is. We got to reinstate the case. So they go ahead and they reinstate the case. The defendant shows up again. which I was really surprised. But the defendant shows up again. And instead of the case being stricken and dismissed, guess what happened? The judge barred them from being at that park for the rest of the year. Not only did the judge bar him, he immediately issued an order, which we got to fax over to the commander, and they got to enforce it that day. Meaning those kids couldn't return for that whole year. And you know what happened? It was no longer a problem. They did not return for that whole year. So every time someone is talked about, hey, guess what? The kids are in this corner and they won't leave and etc. Please come make an arrest. If the community shows up, it will make that difference. If they don't, there's no guarantee. We got to do something. So when we look around today and you want to think why you came out here at 9 o'clock in the morning, why the police were making all that noise, why the streets are all blocked off, that's why. Because if we do something together, if we do organize, then we can make a difference. So now, not only do we have to organize, there's something else that's going to happen. When I talk about
Just lay a test it right here.
When I talk about partnerships, this is what's going to happen. So on Tuesday, can I borrow yours right there? So how many have gotten one of these? All right, make sure you get one of these. On Tuesday, down the street, at Immaculate Conception, mayor's office is coming out. All right. And for us in city government, that means the big boss is coming out, and they're coming out to tell us and to work with us to say that any of our service requests out here are going to take a priority. So I'll give you a prime example. Instead of looking over this way, I want you to turn around and see that stop sign. See that stop sign there? Somebody's did some graffiti on it, right? All right. They don't own that stop sign, do they? Who owns that stop sign?
They own it.
Y'all do.
No.
Y'all own that stop sign. The street that we're on right now, guess who owns it? You do. Yeah. Remember? City, government for the people, by the people, all that. Guess who the people are? Raise your hand. Y'all the people. It is your stop sign. So what the city will do is to ensure that your stop sign like this will make sure it gets fixed. Because the only graffiti should be on these houses is your address. Because you own it. And by the way, before the city going to get to it, your alderman is. He's just